Hello everyone, how are you? Today I'll show you how I made this underwater effect in compositing without using the principal volume. One of the biggest challenges for my short film was the underwater effect and how to achieve the variation in ocean color and fog density throughout the video in a tracking shot with no cuts. I used this method for my VR short film because if I'd used the principal volume, the render would have taken too long. First, I'm going to show you the easy way of doing this, and then I'll tell you how I split the mist pass and the PNG image so I could render the PNG with high samples in a free render farm and render the mist pass with low samples in my computer. I made this simple scenario because the original one is too heavy and it's just a tracking camera movement like in the original animation. So for the color variation, I just keyframe the world color. Just change the color. And press I for making a keyframe. And again. And you could also maintain the same color for a couple of seconds, making a keyframe with the same color of the previous keyframe. For my final video, I tested different settings for the world color and the mist pass, and the lights have a bit of a blue tint, but I'll talk about the lighting in the next video. Now, the mist pass for the foggy underwater effect. Let's choose mist pass so we can visualize it. You can make the start of the mist further or closer to the camera. And the depth. And the white will be the mist, the black will be no mist, and of course the gray is the gradient between those two. And just like with the world color, it's about changing these two values and making a keyframe for every change of settings along the video. just choose the samples you want. I chose just a few samples because this is a demonstration. This is my resolution because this is a VR short film. And choose OpenAXR Multilayer as your format so we can manipulate the mist path in compositing. And render animation. Now for the compositing, open the AXR sequence. Of course, this looks weird because my scenario doesn't have any textures or proper lighting. Now with this color ramp we can control the mist, and of course that the result will also depend on the settings we chose before we render this AXR file. And what I did is keyframing the color ramp's values. Press I, you can keyframe both the black or the white. And you can keep keyframing the values along the animation, which is what I did for my short film. Now in this mix node I also keyframe the color, but there's a glitch I assume in Blender, and sometimes this color box gets missing and you have to plug, unplug, and there it is. And like I said, I also changed the color along the animation and set the values pressing I. And plug it again. And just render as a PNG. Originally for my short film I split my mist path and my image. I use Shipit Render Farm because it is fast and free, but the render farm doesn't allow mist paths, so that's why I just render the image as a PNG. Now I'm just gonna render it here in Blender to show you how I did the compositing, but this was rendered in Shipit with like 800 samples or something crazy like that, and the PNGs were rendered in the original resolution, the one I used for the final video. Choose PNG or JPEG. And because this is not an AXR, this file won't contain any mist path values. Render animation. Then render my AXR with only one sample because I needed the render to be fast and only one sample looked decent. Also, I changed to a smaller resolution to make the render even faster, but I kept the same aspect ratio. render animation, now decompositing. Open the JPEG or PNG sequence in an image node, and in another one open the AXR sequence. And because the AXR has a lower resolution, we need a scale node. And the rest is just like the previous compositing settings I showed you. The keyframes on the color ramp, and in the mix node, that's the same. And remember to render this comp in the final resolution. And that's it for today's video. We still have one video to go to complete this VR series where I'm going to talk about lighting and my render and editing workflow. As always, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.